Marketplace solutions almost always work. We know they work in school reform. We know they work when you run a massive airline, United, and you have had your public relations blunder of dragging the doctor off of the flight, and you see that a marketplace solution will work, and that is that you have a bidding process for an overbooked flight, and you say, okay, we're willing to bid $5,000 cash if you give up your seat. Okay, no takers. All right, we'll go up to $6,000 cash. No takers. All right, $7,000 cash. Are you willing to give up your seat for $7,000 check when you walk off this plane? That is a reasonable market solution rather than resorting to the police. But that is something we need to see more of. And I hope in God's good providence for this wrecked country of ours that more marketplace solutions will be seen rather than police solutions. And the sharing economy offers marketplace solutions in many areas that we call problems, whether it be education or security. And let's hope that we won't need to see officers of the airport dragging passengers off of planes. That was such a humiliation for United. And now United has done what it should have done in the first place, simply have an auction, an on-the-scene auction for seats. The airline is buying back seats, okay? It's buying back seats, and the level is up to $10,000. So if you're there, no one wants to get off because everybody has urgent business at the destination, then the highest price offered is $10,000. And certainly someone has some business soft enough to allow a yes, and I accept on a bid that high. Here you've paid for a seat for maybe $2,000, and the airline is offering you $10,000 to give it up. That's it. That's a profit. Okay, that is a profit, and certainly I would be willing to bet in every case there's someone on that flight with soft business or pleasure willing to take a later flight for that kind of money. That is a marketplace solution. That is the bidding solution, an auction held by the passengers. The buyer is the airline, right? The airline is buying back something that it has oversold in the rational and reasonable process of overbooking. Overbooking is a rational process by the company. And so if there is a hitch, if there is an actual showing up of people beyond the statistical norm, then the auction process takes place and people are bought out. That is the marketplace solution. Now, you could say it's commerce, okay? It's a form of commerce that actually works. Commerce doesn't work, though, all the time, especially when state government, in the case I'm thinking of now, the state of Tennessee, gets into business and compels everybody to be in business. Now, that I'm referring here to the use of the public right-of-way, the public highways, the byways, roads, lanes, concourses, avenues, and boulevards that are in the state of Tennessee, here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, and in every other village, city, town, and metro area across the state. There is this wonderful system of roadways. My mother, who is 93 years old, an immigrant from Switzerland, the daughter of a federal congressman and industrialist, always marvels at streets here in America. She has a very thick accent, and often when we're pulling up from Hickson onto Highway 27, she'll say, "My, what beautiful streets we have, what beautiful highways." She's often complimenting Americans for their highways, though in Europe there are also autobahns and highways. European cities were not made with auto travel in mind, and so they're very cramped with many tight intersections and very, very hostile to motor vehicle or automobile or truck traffic. And I always just smile as I hear her say that, because she's right. She's right. Americans have beautiful highway systems. Here in Tennessee, though, the systems don't belong to the state. They belong to the people. And we know that that's true because there's language in the statute that indicates that this is a public right-of-way. In other words, you, a member of the public, have a right to be on the street. If you have a right to be there, then that right cannot be taxed or licensed or subjected to claims by the state that you don't belong there, because these roads belong to us. In fact, the state is a steward of the road, a caregiver and keeper and maintainer and striper, if you will, of the roads here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. Now, in the city, there's a different jurisdiction, but generally, the state and its agents in cities and counties oversee the people's road. Now, there's a kind of a legal question there. Where does it say the people own them? There is language in the statute that I've seen and in directives touching on the duties of the regulator of the highway that suggest that these are the people's right of way and that the people have a right to be there. Now, Tennessee is in one of its 7 things that the Lord hates. One of them is the oppression of the free user of the road. And we know there is an oppression going on by simply looking at today's headlines. And what we have to do, we look at the story about the story in today's paper about Demetris Wilson, the mother who's filing a lawsuit, another lawsuit against Durham School Services, the bus operator, and the claims that it makes in the filing. Now, I've not looked at the filing for today, but if you go to Nooganomics.com, for example, you can see an earlier analysis when there was a rush of cases filed within a few days of the lethal Woodmore bus crash. The driver, the user of the bus, the man behind the wheel, Jonathan Walker, identified in these lawsuits personally, and Durham School Services also identified as defendant. Now, the question is, how does the use of the people's roads matter when you're a bus service? Okay, well, here's an important distinction, that these lawsuits filed by civil attorneys on for a percentage. This is a speculative investment by law firms. They're working for free for now on contingency that they get 33% of the profits, right? The profit being the award by the jury against Jonathan Walker and Durham School Services. There is a secret, there is a mystery that often their boilerplate filings in circuit and chancery reveal. And the secret is the distinction that I'm making here, that sometimes we can understand commerce, but we also have to understand that there is commerce, but there is also a free use of the road. The question that is before me and you, my listener here at Nooga Radio, is the freedom of travel and the regulation by the state of commerce on the people's right of way. So you have the highways and byways, avenues and boulevards in Tennessee. There are 2 types of users. There is commercial traffic, in which there are people who are called operators and drivers, and they're using the road as common carriers. That means that they buy and sell services carrying people and goods for hire, right? They're called common carriers. Covenant Transportation Group, for example, is a common carrier. It holds itself forth carrying all goods for all comers at a price, right? And it makes a profit on doing that. The other users of the road are private users. Now here we find people such as your 2 blocks from your house. There's a house of immigrants from Guatemala. There are 3 families living in that house. They have some older model cars, a lot of children, and they're in the cash economy, the free market. As one of the men is a laborer in a strawberry field in North Georgia, and another one is a cash contract laborer. And then there are 2 young men in that house also who just recently arrived from Guatemala, relations, and they are looking for work. One has recently found work in the cash economy, cash only economy, and he works in mowing and lawn maintenance and that in that field. So those people are also free travelers. They don't have driver's licenses. They have tags on their car that suggest that those cars are in commerce. There's a registration paper in the glove compartment and a tag, and somebody was smart enough to buy insurance on that car. But the users of the car are not drivers. They are travelers on the public right of way. So they exercise a constitutionally guaranteed right of travel. That's a property right, right? You have a property right of travel. And so that whole group, plus also in that group are a group of principled patriotic type people. I would include in that the Gnome of Strawberry Plains, and also Arthur J. Hirsch, whom I have written about at Nooganomics.com. You can find out about his appeal against a criminal conviction for what? For traveling on the public right of way privately in his work pickup truck. And he is saying, well, you can't touch me. I'm traveling the public right of way as a matter of constitutionally guaranteed right. I'm not in commerce. This is private use of the road. Why are you bothering me? Well, he was bothered all right in December of 2015 in a criminal prosecution of his free use of the road by the state of Tennessee and the district attorney general's office in Lawrence County, middle part of Tennessee, just south of Nashville. So the state is acting on a pretense that no travel is free. It's all in commerce. Now, let's look just briefly at some of the language, the boilerplate language in the lawsuits of the kind that Demetrius Wilson, bereaved mother of a Woodmore school bus crash child victim, says. Walker, according to other cases, they're all kind of the same. Walker was operating a bus. Okay, operating is a commercial term. The girl was a passenger, and the bus was at all times operating in a commercial motor vehicle owned by defendants Durham and NE LLC. Okay, that's other language in earlier cases. Walker was driving, quote unquote. That's again a commercial action, and was negligent, one suit says, reckless in violating state commercial vehicle safety regulations and federal motor carrier safety regulations. Period. Okay, that again. Notice what's happening here. This is describing commerce. You know, the free markets are good. We love commerce. We want there to be more commerce. But remember, when the state becomes a commercial actor and the state separates itself from lawful government, it becomes commercial government. And it pretends that all activity of movement by car or truck or even motorcycle in Tennessee is in commerce. And here the lawyers are telling you this truth, all right? It is a kind of a secret. But you just simply have to read their boilerplate filings in the Woodmore bus crash to see what I'm talking about. This is David Tulis, and we're brought to you by Window Depot of Chattanooga.com, Window Depot of Chattanooga.com. And I'm your local economy guru, David Tulis, the leading Nooga centrist in Southeast Tennessee. That means that, yes, Chattanooga is the center of the universe. It's an odd provincial kind of thing to think, but I'm a cosmopolite, right? I'm a city guy, kind of an international person. And so it's hard for me to think that way naturally, but I'm training myself to think in terms of localism, lococentrism. And so we cover local economy and the free market. And we're trying to see how we got into this mess of being subject to commercial government at almost every point. Even the police state in Tennessee is premised on commercial enforcement that, according to Basil Marceau in his defense of his criminal cases, is commercial and ultimately unconstitutional and unworkable. And these are points that I'll hope to mention in the next minute or two. But getting back to the lawyer's boilerplate in the Woodmore bus crash, there are several other terms that indicate that Jonathan E. Walker, the very bedraggled and scattered-looking man whose mugshot we've seen 1,000 times already since the six children were killed on his watch. Durham is described, his employer was described as a full-service student transportation company, and it did perform student transportation services. That's the lawsuit filed by Everett Hickson Jr. of Chattanooga. Now, Herbert Thornberry is another attorney here, and has many dozens of clients. He has kind of a factory of lawsuits in downtown. I think it's on Cherry Street. He says in his case that Walker was in commerce. The bus was being operated for the use benefit of defendant Durham. Okay, operated, and that Durham is a common carrier that operates a full-service student transportation company through use of employees, agents, servants, and/or contractors who perform student transportation services. Got that? Again, notice maybe I'm laying it on a bit too thick here. Maybe you'll just have to forgive me. David Tulis, I hope you forgive me. But the point is, again, this is a commercial operation. A bus company and a trucking company are commercial in nature. They are making, well, so what's the big deal? Well, think about it for a second. If you, my listener, own the roads, right? You are among the people, and the state is your trustee, and the state is overseeing these roads in trust with you as the beneficiary. Who is damaging these roads the most? Well, bus companies, truck companies, they're all, and what are they doing? They're making a profit. They're making a profit on the people's roadway. And they're not just incidentally using the roads. They are using the roads for profit, carrying people and goods for hire. Therefore, one can reasonably suggest they're open for regulation. They're open for licensure. And so they are subject to the Department of Safety and Homeland Security, Governor Haslam's enforcement arm on the highways. If you look at the Tennessee Highway Patrol patch, it says commerce, right? These are commercial enforcers. Now, what about our Mexican immigrant friends? What about the poor people who can't afford a driver's license? What about, there are many poor. Who gets in trouble the most with traffic laws? The poor. The poor. They're the ones charged over and over again in Sessions Court, City Court, Saudi Daisy, Red Bank, East Ridge. They are the poorest people. They have a hard time getting their money together. They can't keep their papers in order. They're distracted. They are pressed for money, and they're in desperate situation when they go to court because they can't make their fines. They can't get their licenses back, and they are the ones who are harassed routinely in Chattanooga by the state and its agents and its courts. Now, my question really comes back to, well, what about all these sort of patriotic drivers? What about all these immigrants? What are they doing? Aren't they using the roads too? Aren't they damaging the roads? Well, no, they're not. These are the people's roads, right? They take here's Pedro Gonzalez taking his friend to the hospital. Here, his wife is Mrs. Gonzalez taking the children with her since she has no child care during the day, and they're all going to the store for food. On the Lord's Day, they go to the local Presbyterian church, and their relatives go to the Catholic church. On Sunday, they take excursions to Lake Chickamauga. They go really adventurous ones. They've heard about the American Civil War, as they've heard it called, the war to prevent Southern independence, and they say, well, let's take this day. I'm off today, and go to Chickamauga Park and look at the cannons. The boys in that family love the cannons. There are about 9 children. All right, they love cannons. So they're going to go and look at the cannons. They're using the roads, right? And then the teenage boy, his mom takes him to soccer practice, and they're doing it all privately, okay? They're private users of the road. They have a right to use the road without a license, without any commercial connection. And some of them are also harassed and prosecuted. Though it's interesting, police officers let such people go for not having driver's licenses. They'll attach themselves and arrest them only if that person has been speeding or is drinking or has been doing some infraction that endangers the public health and welfare. But ordinarily, Hispanics are let go. But white people, black people who don't have their licenses and would pretend to be operating privately, no, they are dragged before the judge. An expired license simply means that the person is not in commerce anymore. Right? He's on the road now privately. That's all that means. And yet people are charged. They're accused criminally of driving on expired. Well, that simply means you're not a licensee anymore. That simply means that you're done with commerce. You're now using the car privately. That case has not been made. Lawyers will not make it. There are many things lawyers will not make in the way of a case, and because they want the system to continue as it is. That's where they make their bread. That's where they make their money. A common carrier is a commercial operator. He's subject to regulation. Why? As a favor of the state. A common carrier does not have the right to use the public right-of-way as you might, as your Guatemalan near neighbors might, as Jay Hirsch might, the man who's accused criminally and convicted of exercising a constitutional right. The man in commerce, let's say Mr. Parker, who runs Covenant, his people use the road only by permission. Well, he's making a profit off of the use of the road. He's making a profit, he's making a gain, and damaging the road. So he's subject to regulation. He is subject to regulation and taxation and licensure. Those people pay and ask permission from the people they ask it of the state, but everybody else is free. Now these points are you might say kind of odd for David Tulis to bring up and to kind of hammer at here at 92.7 FM, 1240 AM. But they are important because they're in the filings today. These points are in the legal filings today and or yesterday in court in the Woodmore bus crash that killed 6 children who are passengers of a driver. Again, passengers being a legal term denoting commerce. Driver, again, a legal term describing a man who's hired in the profitable business of carrying people and goods for hire. These points, let me suggest, are the secret sauce of liberty. If you understand them, you can see how far we've fallen and where the work needs to be done is litigation, defense, and if you're charged with a crime, ask your attorney about it. This is David Tulis.
Hot News Talk 1240. Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. A 6-year-old boy was hit by a taxi cab in Dalton. Police say that the boy walked out into traffic. The taxi was only traveling 20 miles per hour. He says he didn't have time enough to stop. The 6-year-old boy was reported to be responsive at the scene. The young lad was taken to Erlanger Medical Center with a minor head injury. No charges are being pressed. In Rossville, a trio of scammers have been reported knocking on doors posing as newspaper salespeople. They are not. They're using it as an excuse to break into people's houses and steal items from their garages, according to members of the neighborhood. The police say if someone is acting aggressive on your doorway, lock the door and call the police. A new wrongful death lawsuit is being filed against Durham School Services and the Hamilton County School System and the Director of Transportation. The suit is filed by Demetrius Wilson, which says that her child suffered multiple serious injuries in the Woodmore bus crash and died 2 days later. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect scattered showers and thunder showers to start out your Thursday. Slowly heading on to the east by afternoon. Some sunshine returning. Highs upper 70s. Tonight, clear, comfortable lows near 55. For Friday, some sunshine. Warm highs near 85. Upper 80s on Saturday. Come to the 21st Annual National Cornbread Festival this weekend in South Pittsburgh. Fun for everyone. 5 stages of music, carnival, lodge factory tours, and much more. Visit nationalcornbread.com. And I'm S'mores 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I've been a customer at SMS 14 years. It's way out of my way, but I'm well treated. I believe what I'm told. Price is reasonable. David Tulis here. Make an SNS appointment today. This week, get $50 off any 30,000-mile service or timing belt repair. And get a free combat knife as a gift. SNS Auto Repair specializes in Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. 6-time winner of Best of the Best Award in the Times Free Press. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today.
Jim and the folks at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating know color. They can help you find a cheerful hue for the girl's room, a calming neutral for the kitchen. They can even help you find the right stain and seal for that faded back deck. Jennifer, the interior designer at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating, is ready to listen and provide expert advice. Sure, she can help you find the perfect color for your space, adding beauty and value to your home, but she can also help you plan your project so that you get exactly what you need on your first trip without wasting time or money. Tom, the products expert at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating, knows coatings. He can teach you how to protect your home, your biggest investment. Ready to get started? Visit online at ChattanoogaPaint.com for pro tips and inspiration. Or stop by the showroom today, 5529 Hickson Pike. That's 5529 Hickson Pike, across from the Valvoline. Ask for Jim. Tell them David sent you.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You, my listener, you're a conservative, you're a free marketer, and you say, generally speaking, tax cuts are good and tax increases are bad. You hear about the Governor Haslam increase on taxes on fuel and on the transactions that let you buy fuel, and you are against that, even though there is a remuneration or compensation, if you will, in a reduction in the tax on food. You're against tax increases, and you don't like that there's a compromise like that, which in the case of the Republicans in Nashville seems to have won approval, and Governor Haslam has the bill to sign on his desk, his bill, his compromise, winning a majority of the conservative votes in the General Assembly. And tax hikes are bad, tax declines, tax drops, tax cuts are good. Now, in a way, though, I understand the Democrats' argument against what President Trump is proposing. He has a plan, a broad cut of federal taxes, which he says would be a 15% tax rate for all businesses and lower individual rates and a bigger standard deduction for middle-income households, as well as a repeal of the AMT, the alternative minimum tax, and the tax on estates, the death tax. These are all very good ideas, and I would like to say hurrah and bravo. But if you care about the solvency of the national government, can you really support them? So I'm not sure I do. So maybe I should join in the hurrahs for this proposal, which will cut sharply into the revenues of the national power in Washington, with its pretensions of omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. This is a pretentious power full of pride and destined to fall. It is going to collapse sooner or later. On some blessed day, the lights will go out in the surveillance centers in Utah, Provo, I think it is, and in Maryland, the ones that are as big as several football fields, full of servers sucking up all your private data. and violating the Constitution with every hum of the cooling rotator fan in each unit. With every turn of the blade, there is a violation of the constitutional rights on your side and a violation of the constitutional grants of power given in an enumerated fashion to the federal government back in the Constitution. Remember that? These limitations on power, long ignored, long rejected, granting the good people in Washington instant access to all your data and a pretended power as against you. It is a pretended power. We have a system of taxation which is largely fraudulent, though it is upheld by the U.S. district courts and courts of appeal, all in a pretense that there is a federal authority directly over the individual. The National Economic Council man quoted in the Wall Street Journal today, Gary Cohen, says, "Clearly, we have a unique opportunity to do something major here. It's our intention to create a huge tax cut and, equally as important, a huge simplification of the tax system in America." Now, this is exciting in the sense that all these things need to be done, but can they be done when the national government is almost on the verge of bankruptcy? It is almost bankrupt. It is on the verge of receivership. I'm not sure where Washington would file bankruptcy. Would it be in District of Columbia, U.S. Bankruptcy Court chapter? Maybe, but probably the bankruptcy would be aired internationally in the debt markets. The Trump team intends to argue that these cuts will spur economic growth and increase revenue. That is a general principle. If you reduce taxes, you get more tax revenue because there's more activity subject to the tax. The lower rates encouraging economic back and forth. That is to say, trade and buying and selling, and more money comes in. So there's a general idea there that is underscored by these comments, and it's thought by some members of the Trump team that the deficits won't go up on account of this jarring and exhilarating proposal for tax cuts. Trump says it's a great plan. It's going to put people back to work. That's his, and again, based on very optimistic projections for a national economy choked to the debt, to the gills with debt, a national government choked by endless responsibilities, endless claims, a pretense that it doesn't have to pay for anything. For there to be a realistic solution, though, to the national bankruptcy, there would have to be a major tax increase, an increase in taxes that would probably double the rates everybody pays, clamping down on enforcement and the like to make the government solvent again. But it's not solvent. And the entity, the body, if you will, that's bearing the weight of this illusion is the dollar itself, which is being stretched to a maximum beyond all credibility. So I'm excited about the idea of a tax cut that would benefit thousands of people here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. But as the Democrats, who have their own little quirky progressive agenda, right, big government agenda as well, they're saying, well, this is going to raise deficits. And they're probably right. They're probably right. And the Republicans and President Trump are living in a la-la land of solutions. There are no solutions to national bankruptcy, which is ahead. Okay, it is ahead. And in that bankruptcy, we hear you listening to me here at Nooga Radio 92.7 and AM 1240 have an opportunity. And that's what we'd like to talk about here on our program, the David Tulis program. And I argue that near is better than far, small than big, and simple than complex. And down in the footnotes, where if you put on your reading glasses, you might listen with that single gray hair showing up on your eyebrow. Okay, have your wife pluck that tonight. You cannot put your glasses on. You can read it in the small type in the footnotes, where we fight back, right? We fight back in footnotes and in the open field with howitzers. And the point that we make is that personal is better than corporate, and that physical is better than abstract. Brought to you by Nooganomics.com. Also brought to you by TennesseeStar.com. TennesseeStar.com, the new conservative free market platform for news here in Tennessee. Now that's TennesseeStar.com. I want you to go there and read a story about Basil Marceau. I had to fight with the editor yesterday to get the Marceau name in the headline, and he rejected my petition. I said Marceau is a name that has traction. And there's a major story out today, about Basil Marceau. He is the crank candidate, right? He is the buffoon. He is the legal troublemaker. He was once in Moccasin Bend as criminally insane under pressure from a prosecutor in a right to travel case. He's a man who stands for constitutional principle, and he is a crank. This is all what's said. He's ridiculed and remembered warmly with a ridiculous air about him in the 2010 gubernatorial primary, where he ran for governor and received, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 votes. Of course, Haslam winning the race for governor with some hundred thousands of votes. But the protest candidate, Basil Marceau, is making important arguments. Now, go to TennesseeStar.com. Just write that down, TennesseeStar.com, your news platform for free market and you might say state economy. It is a free market-oriented conservative website run by some conservatives in Nashville, and they have invited me. And with some effort, I got this story on that website. It's an important story, and you can find it also at Nooganomics.com if you're more familiar with going there. But the argument, the legal challenge that Basil Marceau is making vis-a-vis state government is, in the end, is profound. Now, he's been working in his legal review and legal analysis in an area that has interested me for a long time. And I've just, prior to interviewing Basil Marceau and reading after him, prior to reading my time now and reading after him, I had a view only of part of the problem. And that problem is the confusion between civil and criminal jurisdictions. Basil Marceau, standing on two Chattanooga cases, very important cases, is holding his ground, and he is causing confusion and alarm in the legal world of Tennessee. And here's what he's, just bear with me. I'm trying to explain what he's saying. He's not a crank, okay? We could say that Tulis throws Marceau off of exalted pedestal as court jester. That's kind of my headline for what's happened. He's not a court jester, but he is in court as a criminal defendant in several cases. Now, he is a right to travel defender, though right now he has a driver license, and he may have registration and insurance on his car, putting it into commerce. But those points aside, his defense is remarkable, and it's not really on the right to drive or the right to travel. It's on an issue which is more foundational than that, and that is the use by the state of inferior courts to handle its wave of police action. Okay, the police in every city are free to harass people, free to charge them with all kinds of offenses, including commercial offenses. And it's free to do those in great numbers, mostly the poor, mostly blacks, right? Blacks and the poor are those ground under by the police machinery in Tennessee. They are dragged into the system, and where are they taken first? Well, their first stop is Sessions Court, County Court, or City Court. If it's a traffic offense, it goes to City Court. But if it's a criminal offense that's non-traffic, it generally goes to County Sessions Court, held in the county seat, or in a major town in a particular county. Here in Chattanooga, the county activity takes place in Sessions Court downtown, right? Well, in the county courts building. Well, is there a problem here? Yes, Basil Marceau says the problem is that cities don't have criminal charging authority, as he argues, and he's basing his argument on two cases. The two cases I mentioned. One is Chattanooga versus Myers, and Chattanooga versus Davis is the more recent one, 2001. Now, I've read these cases in detail. I've carefully marked them. I've tried to understand them. And I've had several interviews with Basil Marceau. The reason I could not get all this information from him in one interview is that he's just very difficult to understand. And that's not just because he has two teeth. Now, at the time of his gubernatorial campaign in 2010, he was kind of mumbling, and that's because he had only three teeth. Now it's down to two. So it makes his speech patterns a little hard to understand. But it's not just the speech pattern that's a problem. It's his way of making statements that seem to be disconnected and conclusory rather than progressive. In other words, he won't explain how something works. He'll just jump to the end and tell you what it's all about. And I don't do very well with that. I want to know the process. Okay, how did you get to this process? Are you following a wacky opinion, Basil Marceau of Saudi Daisy? Or is this based on some research and reading? So what I had to do in the past couple months is to read after Basil Marceau, read these cases. Barrett versus Metro Government was another one. And there's a case in the 1800s that talk about the limitations in the law of city courts and county courts. They're called inferior courts because they don't have juries and they're not courts of record. They're called inferior because they are equivalent to justice of the peace, where justice is dispensed rapidly without all the niceties of constitutional protections having to be maintained, right? See what I'm saying? And so there you have a court that's not constitutional. Well, what if you have a state statute that's been violated and there's an accuser, a police officer? Can he take his accusation of a violation of a state law into Sessions Court or into city court? Marceau, citing these two cases, says no. He says that city governments and county governments don't have, well, particularly city governments, don't have statutory enforcement authority, and their courts are incapable of enforcing statute. That is a remarkable claim. And what I've done in reporting this, and you can find out more about this at TennesseeStar.com. That's TennesseeStar.com, a new platform for free market and conservative analysis here in Tennessee. It's run by Steve Gill and friends. He's a talk show host in Nashville, Republican, very, very liberty-minded man. I think he's an attorney as well. And if you go there today, you'll find, I think, probably the most important story that I've done in some time. I'd say that the Basil Marceau arguments are, as far as legal news and government news in Tennessee, perhaps the biggest story in the past 20 years. Now, that beats any campaign, that beats any election results, that beats even, I would like to suggest, the giving, how the duping of the people in the high court nomination vote amendment of the Constitution. If you remember, we now have a system in which the governor names high court, Supreme Court judges, and the people either approve or disapprove. They were duped into allowing that. That's a major change in the law. This argument by Marceau is even bigger than that, and the reason is this: his arguments challenge the underlying premise of the police state. This is the first legal argument that I've seen that says not just policing is unconstitutional, but that the police and their routine operations in complicity with law firms, lawyers, and judges are putting people in front of the judge apart from their authority. And what has to happen, if Marceau is right, what has to happen is that every time a cop sees someone violating a statute, he cannot cite him to Sessions Court. There's no citation process anymore, which allows for the volume to be ramped up. If an officer sees a person violating a state law, he has to arrest that person, charge that person, book that person. The person has to make bond, and then the person has to be indicted. That's what has to happen. You cannot have a pressure relief system that lets them simply be cited to these lower courts. What would happen if everybody who was accused was arrested and booked? You would have such an uproar, such an outrage, that policing would be cut by 98%. That's my guess. Okay, that's my guess of what would happen if police could not cite people to lower courts, these inferior courts, and they had to go through the indictment process for real crimes. You would have an explosion of public unrest against the whole law enforcement, much of it commercial, the whole law enforcement enterprise of Tennessee government through its agents in counties and states. You would have cities would not have police departments anymore. The police departments would not probably be allowed to carry weapons. They would simply be civil process servers at best. That's the argument that Marceau makes. He says that police officers legally have no more authority than process servers. They do not have authority to arrest on state charges. They do not have authority to tase, beat, manhandle, knock to the ground anybody. They can't do that. And what this is, that's why this case is so important, and that's why this story that your editor David Tulis has broken. Right, I've broken the story. That's why you should find out more about this. Now, the story is a little complicated and it's a little long, but I suggest you go to TennesseeStar.com. TennesseeStar.com. Basil Marceau may be a crank. He may be a buffoon. He may be hard to understand. He may be laughable on YouTube. He may make you chuckle when you see him at Comedy Central. But he's making an argument here that he's been making, he says, for 17 years. But I'd say probably in the past 6 years, he's been making this argument most effectively. And that is, here's the question, okay? Here's the question. Can a criminal court hear a matter that arises from within city jurisdiction? I think that's his question. And he says that the high court has already answered this question. The high court has answered it, and that everybody is rejecting it. Lawyers are rejecting it. District attorneys are rejecting it, and that they don't have authority to haul anybody by citation in front of an inferior court that would be Sessions Court. Sessions Court is a civil court. Now, I've looked at the statute, and my story at TennesseeStar.com gives a quick review of the statute. And the suggestion is that, no, these are purely civil courts. There is not a way that a criminal matter can be brought before Gary Starnes in Sessions Court. There's just no way that can happen. And so this question, especially if I pursue it as journalist, will be causing tremors in the legal system, all because Basil Marceau is asking the question, can the criminal court hear my criminal case if it originates within city limits? That's the question. Again, the question is, can the criminal court hear my criminal case if it originates within city limits? And the short answer, he suggests, is no, it can't. And so he's had several in his pursuit of justice and trying to vindicate himself from criminal charges. There have been several contradictory orders that have come down from the Criminal Court of Appeals in Nashville and the Civil Court of Appeals in Nashville. And he has to have you can't not have a remedy. Okay, so there's a problem here that he's highlighting, a structural problem, a deep structural problem in not the law in Tennessee, but the way the law is sort of managed and massaged by the parties who make their livings from the law. That would be police departments, courts, and the lawyer guild in each county. They all seem to agree that Chattanooga versus Davis is an irrelevant opinion. And yet when it was issued, Judge Walter Williams was forbidden from his $500 fines in these lower courts, and he was kind of slapped down. Well, this is David Tulis, and we're going to talk next with Chris Butler, independent journalist in Tennessee.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com, Chattanooga's premier house buyer. Do you have a house you need to sell fast? We are buying. Call us today. We are local folks. We will buy your house as is, no repairs needed. We will give you a cash offer and close on the day of your choice. Call us right now, 423-834-7321. Need to sell a house fast? We are buying. Are you experiencing one of these situations? Inherited a house you have no need for? Behind on your property taxes? Nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Too many repairs needed and don't have a desire to fix? Behind on payments and facing foreclosure? Recently divorced and need a way out of the house? Never really wanted to be a landlord and just want to cash out? Trying to relocate and need to sell your house? Do you need to sell a house fast? We are buying. No fees, no hassles, no repair costs. Close on the day of your choice. Our process is simple. Call us today. We inspect your property right away. We make you a fair cash offer. We close on the day of your choice. Call us today, 423 423-834-7321. Visit our website, iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. Call us today, 423-834-7321. iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Simple cremation for $895. Why spend more? ChattanoogaCremationCenter.com. ChattanoogaCremationCenter.com. Value you want, service you trust. $895. ChattanoogaCremationCenter.com.
Here comes the bride, she's walking down the street.
And she's wearing a stunning diamond ring that's a fraction of the cost that her man would have paid at one of those overpriced mall jewelry stores. Rick Davis has a plethora on quality diamonds and gold rings, and he wants to pass the savings on to you. Did I say plethora? How about overabundance? That's right, an overabundance of gold and diamonds. So before you decide to get crazy and pay full retail on an overpriced piece of jewelry from one of those cookie cutter mall jewelry stores, come on out and see Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Top quality gold and diamonds at a fraction of the cost. Intermarital bliss with an engagement and wedding ring from Rick Davis. Hey, he'll also buy your gold and diamonds with cash, and more cash. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And there goes another happy bride.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson, Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocked him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Fox News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, David Tulis, Coast to Coast
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga, WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. President Trump says he's willing to renegotiate the North American free trade deal with Mexico and Canada. That goes against what he said during the campaign when he called NAFTA a job-killing disaster.
NAFTA was the worst deal ever made in the history of the world.
The president says that while he's willing to renegotiate the trade deal, he won't accept a new agreement that's not fair to all sides. Automotive reporter Jeff Gilbert has reaction to the trade deal about face from Detroit.
The auto industry is built around NAFTA. Change could be good, says Ford Chief Financial Officer Bob Shanks, but NAFTA itself needs to stay.
We're in favor of NAFTA itself. It's been a positive for the industry. It's made us more competitive globally, which is good for us, but also good for the economy.
Ford posting a $1.6 billion first quarter profit. Jeff Gilbert, CBS News, Detroit.
And this is just in. The Defense Department's Inspector General has opened a new investigation of fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn over Flynn's failure to get permission to accept thousands of dollars in payments from Russia and Turkey. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin still can't break down the brackets for the president's tax plan or answer other key questions about it. But Mnuchin told CBS this morning he's confident the plan would work.
This is going to be paid for by economic growth and by a reduction of many, many deductions and special interests.
On Capitol Hill, CBS's Nancy Cordes tells us about a key provision that could win conservative support for a revised Republican health care bill.
A new amendment allowing states to eliminate some of Obamacare's patient protections, including one that prevents insurers from jacking up rates for people with pre-existing conditions. Those states would be given some funds to set up high-risk pools to help cover those who would no longer be able to afford insurance.
United Airlines is implementing changes to avoid embarrassing incidents like the one that led to the forced removal of a passenger from an overbooked flight. CBS's Don Daler has that.
One of the new guidelines prohibits passengers from having to give up their seat involuntarily unless safety or security is at risk. Customers willing to be switched off overbooked flights will be offered compensation up to $10,000.
Email has its uses, but
using email to ask friends to sponsor you in a fundraising event like a marathon or charity hike is a waste of effort compared to a face-to-face approach. It's direct social pressure that brings in the bucks. A Canadian study found people are 35 times more likely to donate after a personal request for sponsorship. Researchers say emails just don't create empathy. They suggest you'll collect as much cash from 3 personal requests as from 100 emails. Larry Miller, CBS News.
In early trading on Wall Street, the averages are moderately higher. The Dow Industrial Average is ahead 17.5 points. This is CBS News.
It's happening to you every night. One snores and the other can't sleep. It seems like there's no end to it. But now, there is a quick and easy-to-use solution, a natural solution. Snore Stop. Snore Stop was created and tested by a team of physicians and has been helping couples sleep for over 18 years. It is the #1 selling anti-snoring medicine in the U.S.
Thank you, Snore Stop. You saved my marriage.
Snore Stop sprays or tablets are now available nationwide at Rite Aid and CVS. Or you can go online at snorestop.com. Don't wait. It's time to try Snore Stop and make every night a better night for both of you.
Thanks, Snore Stop. Now I'm back in the bedroom.
So don't wait. Try Snore Stop, the #1 selling anti-snoring medicine in the U.S. Spray or tablets are available today at Rite Aid and CVS or online at snorestop.com. That's snorestop.com. Snore Stop, keeping you together.
The capital of North Korea, Pyongyang, is suffering from an acute gasoline shortage. The government hasn't explained what the problem is, but there's speculation that its primary supplier, China, has cut deliveries to pressure North Korea to stop testing nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles. From Seoul, South Korea, reporter Don Kirk tells us the gasoline shortage is no problem for some North Korean drivers.
If you travel around North Korea, you see quite a few small trucks that are run not on fuel, but on charcoal and on wood.
They have huge wood-burning stoves.
This dates from the period of the Japanese occupation and World War II, and that's how Japanese vehicles in many cases got around. That's always been an embarrassment to North Korea.
As Kirk learned from personal experience.
I tried to take pictures of these vehicles and was always stopped by my minder.
And back in Pyongyang, gasoline prices have soared to more than $5 a gallon. Frank Sedapani, CBS.
News Talk.
Hiring is the most challenging part.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. A 6-year-old boy was hit by a taxi cab in Dalton. Police say that the boy walked out into traffic. The taxi was only traveling 20 miles per hour. He says he didn't have time enough to stop. The 6-year-old boy was reported to be responsive at the scene. The young lad was taken to Erlanger Medical Center with a minor head injury. No charges are being pressed. In Rossville, a trio of scammers have been reported knocking on doors posing as newspaper salespeople. They are not. They're using it as an excuse to break into people's houses and steal items from their garages, according to members of the neighborhood. The police say if someone is acting aggressive on your doorway, lock the door and call the police. A new wrongful death lawsuit is being filed against Durham School Services and the Hamilton County School System and the Director of Transportation. The suit is filed by Demetrius Wilson, which says that her child suffered multiple serious injuries in the Woodmore bus crash and died 2 days later. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect scattered showers and thunder showers to start out your Thursday. Slowly heading on to the east by afternoon. Some sunshine returning. Highs upper 70s. Tonight, clear, comfortable lows near 55. For Friday, some sunshine. Warm highs near 85. Upper 80s on Saturday. Come to the 21st Annual National Cornbread Festival this weekend in South Pittsburgh. Fun for everyone. 5 stages of music, carnival, lodge factory tours, and much more. Visit nationalcornbread.com. And I'm Swarsheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
David Tulis brought to you by Window Depot of Chattanooga.com, Window Depot of Chattanooga.com, and Boyd's Speedway, where every Saturday, uproarious doings of high movement, great noise, great speed, and dust to enliven your weekend at Boyd's Speedway. This is David Tulis at AM 1240 and FM 92.7 here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. We are very big consumers of news and love that there are independent journalists out there such as Chris Butler, who runs a nonprofit news portal that gives us news from all around the state and lets us kind of evaluate where we here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, Southeast Tennessee, stand vis-a-vis other parts of the state. What scandals are there elsewhere? What abuses of power are there elsewhere? Where are sheriffs having sexual relations with inmates? Where are county officials, state officials running in against the law or abusing somehow their discretion in the use of taxpayer money? Chris Butler operates TennesseeWatchdog.org, TennesseeWatchdog.org. It's a nonprofit news outlet, and I think at some point he's going to want to be able to shift to a commercial for-profit operation that allows him to more readily expand his service area to people all across Tennessee. Chris, you have the new thing that you have is a fascinating video dealing with with TEA, the Tennessee Education Association. What's this video about? Why did you feel it necessary to produce it?
Well, David, for all the years I've been doing Tennessee Watchdog, I've done stories off and on about the Tennessee Education Association, also known as the TEA. But a lot of those conversations were off record. These were conversations I had with teachers who were in the organization or were currently in or were previously in, but they didn't want to talk on record because they feared some sort of retribution from the organization. They said that the organization was decidedly left of center and cared more about the teachers' best interest than they did the students, and that they were just a very partisan group of people. But what I did with this video, for the very first time, I was able to speak on the record, with 3 different teachers who were members of the TEA at one point and left because they disagreed with the TEA's policies. These were 3 men who were not afraid of any retribution at all, and they had some very substantial things to say.
Well, what are the faults of this union, this teachers cartel, if you will?
Well, they protect, in the words of Andy Holt, the state representative that I interviewed in the video, the teachers unions, quote, protect those who contribute the least. They have enough money to hire high-dollar attorneys who can intimidate the school board into keeping employees or teachers who really don't have any merit and don't need to be there. And they resort to these Saul Alinksy-like tactics that heighten conflict and intimidate the school administrators. And they oppose things that some people consider productive, like school vouchers and school choice. And they're in line with the national. The TEA is the affiliate for the NEA, the National Education Association. If you go to the NEA's website and you look at their agenda, you will see some very, very decidedly left-of-center things, and the TEA, by extension, believes the exact same thing. As I reported previously, the NEA endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. They gave her something like $25 million for her campaign last year. And this is not very well known, but I reported this. The dues, if you're a member of the TEA, part of your dues money is going to pay, is going to the campaigns for people like Hillary Clinton and other people. And this is important. The people in Tennessee ought to care about this for this very reason. I would say, aside from Nashville and Memphis and maybe some of the other larger cities in Tennessee, Tennessee is a very conservative, very red state. So the teachers who spoke to me in the interview, as well as Mr. Holt, told me that the TEA's values and standards are not in line with those of average Tennesseans.
You mentioned Saul Alinksy tactics. Give an example for my listener here at AM 1240 and FM 92.7, Chris Butler, an example of an Alinksy tactic and how that works.
Well, Saul Alinksy tactics, I think this was best explained in some documentaries that I've seen from Dinesh D'Souza that came out, like America and forget the name of the other one. But Saul Alinksy was a troublemaker. He died in the early 70s. He influenced Barack Obama. He influenced Hillary Clinton. She wrote her college thesis about him. He encouraged anarchy. He encouraged smearing your enemies to get your way, bullying people. And one particular example of that, here in the Nashville area, there are two organizations, one in Williamson County, another one in Sumner County. They call them Strong Schools. There's Williamson Strong and Sumner Strong. Now, these people claim no formal affiliation with the NEA. However, the NEA has on its website that encourages its groups and organizations to use the term Strong Schools. So in all likelihood, they are affiliated with the NEA. But I'll give you an example. In Sumner County, there was a journalist, much like myself, his name is Neil Siders, who did some pieces against Sumner Strong. And the people in Sumner Strong didn't like it, so they retaliated by creating a website making fun of him and his family. And I won't go into detail about what was said on this website, because it was some very crude, vulgar, disgusting sexual things. But it was eventually, he says in a lawsuit that he determined that it was that group behind it. So they will resort to smear tactics and anarchy tactics in order to intimidate their enemies. And I should add that this organization, Sumner Strong, influenced the county commission up there to raise property taxes 20% to pay for more schools and more teachers. And they are an influential group. Now, as far as Williamson Strong is concerned, I've done several stories about that organization, but a lot of people are very afraid to talk on the record because they actively fear retribution, having their names smeared, and this is all in line with the Saul Alinksy tactics that the teachers unions abide by and follow.
This is David Tulis. We're glad you're giving us a couple of minutes of your time here at Nooga Radio. We're talking with Chris Butler, who is an independent, free market-oriented journalist with TennesseeWatchdog.org. If you go to that website, you can sign up for a subscription. At the very top bar, it's join our Tennessee Watchdog newsletter, and he's just come out with kind of a roundup for fraud, waste, and abuse for April. So every month he has this nice roundup from around the state, and sometimes things touching on in the Chattanooga area. But he has a view of state officials, whether sheriffs or school officials or others, regulators, stepping outside their bounds, doing things that just look silly or wrong.
All right, so Chris, we're talking about the TEA, the Tennessee Education Association. How does the public school system maintain their themselves? Is TEA important for maintaining the existence of public education, or is it really not really helpful to the public perception of public schools, which I think is in decline? But we have supports for public education from various, you might say, stakeholders.
Well, the teachers that I talked to on the record and off the record were all consistent in saying that the TEA is actually a toxic influence in the state of Tennessee. They care more for their own for their own best interest and care little for the students' best interest. To quote something Andy Holt told me, they TEA people routinely go to his office and threaten them. They say that if you don't toe the line, if you don't vote the way we want you to do, we'll vote you out. Of course, every time he runs for re-election, that never happens. But to quote what Mr. Holt said, the teachers come to him and say that if you don't support our agenda and you support school choice and school vouchers, you're taking money out of our school district. And as he said, you're never talking about taking kids out of our school district. You're talking about taking money and robbing us of our job security. So Mr. Holt seems to think that is indicative of them caring more for their own self-preservation and caring less or little for what's in the student's best interest.
So the TEA and its members are stakeholders in the continuity of public education of state. You might say the state factory school. They wanted to continue because they have their retirements, they have their incomes, they have their long summer breaks, and they're sort of pro institution. They're for this large part of state government because they are its stewards and they earn their livelihood. The TA members earn their livelihoods from public schools. They're not really about reform. They're about maintenance of the system as it is.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, I talked to Rhonda Thurman, and I believe she's a school board member down there in Hamilton County. And I wasn't able to speak with her for this story, but I did, in part of the video, I did go over a list of quotes from past stories. And what she just described is pretty much exactly what Ms. Thurman told me about the TEA, almost verbatim.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Chris Butler of TennesseeWatchdog.org. So, Chris, tell my listener what kind of stories you've been covering so he can get a better sense of your range of interests on behalf of taxpayers around the state.
Well, anything that qualifies as waste, fraud, or abuse in the local, state, or federal governments. I've just been doing a variety of topics. I think it's safe to say that TennesseeWatchdog.org is certainly a prolific website when it comes to the topics that it covers. As you may well know, we've done a lot of stuff with EPB and some of the efforts to establish government-owned internet and to compete against private providers, which is essentially nothing more than government using taxpayer money to compete against the free market. And, government has an unlimited supply of taxpayer money, so they have an edge over private business because the amount of money and resources a private business would have is finite. And I did a story recently about efforts to expand government-owned internet, and I found out that a lot of the people who donated to the legislature to fight on behalf of this are tied to some of the interests who wanted to expand government-owned internet. Some of the other stuff I've been doing, police search and seizure, policing for profit. I've written stories about how law enforcement will seize your property, a drug bust or whatever, and they won't even keep a proper inventory of what they've seized. And in many cases, if it's a car or if it's money, law enforcement will abuse these resources, and auditors constantly call them out. But it's not something that's very well known because a lot of the media here in Tennessee won't really delve into those subjects.
What has happened to the reform for civil asset forfeiture in the General Assembly? There was a bill by Todd Gardenhire that would sharply curtail the practice and require a criminal conviction before a good seized in a stop like that, or an arrest could be forfeited. What has happened to that bill?
I honestly don't know. I wish I could tell you, but as soon as I get off the radio here, I'll certainly look it up.
Well, listen, Chris Butler of TennesseeWatchdog.org, thank you so much for joining us here at Nooga Radio.
All right, and we're on Facebook and Twitter. It's TennesseeWatchdog.org. Thank you so much.
TennesseeWatchdog.org, and that has been Chris Butler, the writer and chief journalist, one of a small but growing number of independent media sites here in Tennessee. In Chattanooga, the free market-oriented, independent watchdog-type website is Nooganomics.com. That's Nooganomics.com, that covers local economy and the free market. It's an argument that I really appreciate, and I like it because it's so weak. That's right. It's a weak argument, and that is to say, it's weak because it doesn't rely on the strength of tax money, the strength of coercion, the power of the state to make things happen. It doesn't rely on public policy. The arguments of local economy and the free market are really more voluntary oriented. They're more sort of gospel and grace oriented view of the marketplace. And if you're typical of groups such as the Tennessee Education Association or backers of public schools, you're very iffy on that question. You want there to be the proper use of force, right? You take part in elections. You're concerned about taxes being properly used. You see numerous types of enterprise that can be and should be funded by taxation. In other words, you have a view of culture and life in which force is used to bring about good things rather than simply to stop bad things. In my weak view of the marketplace, there shouldn't be force used anywhere. There shouldn't be policing anywhere. There should not be licensure or cartel operators anywhere who have advantage over competitors by virtue of their having a favor from the state, right? That's what a license is. A license gives you the ability to do something that other people are forbidden to do. There should not be any use of force in the marketplace, except, and the only exception would be in the operation of courts. Courts are there to settle disputes, and if there is a wrong or a tort done by one party in a dispute against another, well, the victim should have recourse to the judge and the jury, and the officer is there to make sure that the remedy is applied, and the party responsible for the wrong does in fact make good on it, right? That's what the force is used just in that point, and that point alone. That is a very restrained view of the operation of government, of the civil magistrate, and that's what David Tulis proposes. And why is that? Well, because I'm informed by Christianity. I'm informed by the gospel, which is all about grace, and sees in the blessings of culture and the blessings of the marketplace, sees virtually no use for compulsion and coercion. The threat of the pistol barrel, right? When we have the pistol barrel operating widely here in Southeast Tennessee, here in Chattanooga, and Hamilton County and places beyond. If you're my listener, not local, you need to know that what I have to say here is not trademarked, it's not copyrighted, especially my wonderful little nostrum, my slogan, if you will, that says love your neighbor and buy local. We believe in local economy and the free markets. And we want to have those blessings here, right? We're not going to have a real local economy and a real free market here, so long as we are dependent on Washington, so long as we are willing to take the free money and then obey all the rules that come with it. Free money that's not really free at all, of course, right? Because that money has been put in front of on your plate by taxation or by borrowing against future generations. That would be, most federal money is not based on taxation. It's based on borrowing. So future generations pretendedly are going to have to pay that debt. And you have a benefit now in the free money. So I would say, no, let's stay away from the gun. There's a story by Collins Parker, I think at TV 12, about Brown Middle School. A boy Wednesday brought a pellet gun into the school, an aerosol pellet gun. Must have had one of those little rapid fire tubes there, little cartridge. He handed it in his book bag. There was an anonymous tip. All proper steps were followed according to the HCDE Code of Conduct. And then the story points out that all students are safe. Somehow, as if the very presence of a pellet gun in a school was a threat to them all, which, of course, is ridiculous. All students are safe, and the school is continuing as normal today. There's a quote here in this story, not attributed, probably by school officials. We at HCDE, Hamilton County Department of Education, are thankful a caring parent called this tip in, because parents and schools should work together to keep all of our students safe. Now, private weapons, I'd say, are much less dangerous to you, my listener, than public weapons. Private arms, much less a threat to your well-being, the threat to your wife and children, than public arms. That is to say, arms that bear the force of the state with them. And again, that's because we believe in the sharing economy. We believe in free markets. And the voluntary, grace-oriented dealings in the marketplace where people look out for each other, right? That's what capitalism is all about. Free enterprise presupposes that the entrepreneur looks out for his customers, wants that customer to prosper, to have fewer breakdowns in his factory equipment, fewer break-ins of his computer equipment, and lower costs. That's what the entrepreneur does to his customers, helping that customer's customers get a better deal on their dollar. And that's the whole marketplace, everyone working together. Adam Smith called that the invisible hand. I call that the interest of God in human affairs, where his will is exercised graciously throughout the economy. David Tulis here. David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. A 6-year-old boy was hit by a taxi cab in Dalton. Police say that the boy walked out into traffic. The taxi was only traveling 20 miles per hour. He says he didn't have time enough to stop. The 6-year-old boy was reported to be responsive at the scene. The young lad was taken to Erlanger Medical Center with a minor head injury. No charges are being pressed. In Rossville, a trio of scammers have been reported knocking on doors posing as newspaper salespeople. They are not. They're using it as an excuse to break into people's houses and steal items from their garages, according to members of the neighborhood. The police say if someone is acting aggressive on your doorway, lock the door and call the police. A new wrongful death lawsuit is being filed against Durham School Services and the Hamilton County School System and the Director of Transportation. The suit is filed by Demetrius Wilson, which says that her child suffered multiple serious injuries in the Woodmore bus crash and died 2 days later. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect scattered showers and thunder showers to start out your Thursday. Slowly heading on to the east by afternoon. Some sunshine returning. Highs upper 70s. Tonight, clear, comfortable lows near 55. For Friday, some sunshine. Warm highs near 85. Upper 80s on Saturday. Come to the 21st Annual National Cornbread Festival this weekend in South Pittsburgh. Fun for everyone. 5 stages of music, carnival, lodge factory tours, and much more. Visit nationalcornbread.com. And I'm Swarsheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Window Depot of Chattanooga. They're locally owned and operated and been around since 2008, installing top-quality vinyl replacement windows. You get the best price and service in the area. Top-quality double pane, energy-efficient windows. They look great and save you money.
Oh, I love to save money.
You'll also save money on your heating and cooling costs. Call 894-0011. 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Sales and installation professionals. You'll get a fantastic job while helping to enhance the value, appearance, comfort, and efficiency of your most valuable asset, your home. Other window providers? No way. Window Depot Chattanooga's windows qualify for the TVA rebate. Sliding doors, gutters, soffits, fascia, garage doors, and other home improvements. If you want to save a ton, call 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Window Depot of Chattanooga. Sales and installation professionals.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient, double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shaliford Road. Call 894-0011 today. Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us, Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me, Action Rentals.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
One of the great things about Roy Moore, the former Chief Justice in Alabama, is that he is not easily intimidated. That is something that we should consider and from which we should take heart, that he, in his whole life, has been a man who does not buckle easily. He stands firm on what he believes and acts as if he's right. And he doesn't, because he's a man who doesn't have a lot of guilt, he doesn't have to surrender. He doesn't have to cave in. Who are the people who cave in easily? Who are the ones who yield principle? Well, people who don't hold the principles very firmly and very dearly are the ones who, when the pressure rises, will give in. They will compromise. They'll find a way around the obstacle and make peace. They are compromised morally many times and ethically. And so when it comes to the matter in view of the report, right, in view of the reporter, in view of the press, the public matter, they will give in and say, well, okay, or they'll plead guilty. That's what happens. They'll plead guilty if they're charged. He is Governor Moore is Governor. What am I saying? Chief Justice Roy Moore is suspended for it is said to have violated Obergefell versus Hodges with an administrative order sent down the chain of command sometime after that opinion had been issued in 2015. Lost his seat, was suspended, and the news is that he is going to be running for the U.S. Senate in Alabama. And he's a hero because his consistent belief in several main points. One is that you cannot have justice without an acknowledgement of God, and that is true. If you don't have acknowledgement of God, you cannot, and the system of equity and government that God requires of man. If you don't acknowledge God, you cannot have justice. And you have to understand that that's true philosophically. If there's not an exterior law source, a source of law exterior to any man or any government, then what happens is that government's understanding of right and wrong, of law, controls, right? If you don't have a system external of any of man's systems, then a given system of man or other will control. And think of all I won't bring up the obvious names of people who have thought their legal systems were right. There are many of them, and some of them have little black mustaches under their covering their frenulums under their noses, right? That's the kind of people who have their view of what's right. Might makes right. And that is the result. If you don't have God in your government, then might makes right. And much of America's legal system is follows on that very premise. And I'm thinking about the Yankees, right? Yankee courts, Yankee government, and Yankee presidents. We had the option in the last election between two Yankees, both from New York, being the chief executive. The Senate seat in Alabama, according to the Times Free Press story about Justice Moore, or Mr. Moore now, I guess we should say, is held by Luther Strange. That he was appointed by Governor Robert Bentley, who was forced out recently in a sexual scandal regarding also the misuse of state assets. The story recounts in the paper Judge Moore's fight. The first one was over the little wooden plaque in his county court of the Ten Commandments, and then finally the monument, the granite monument for which he was thrown out illegally and unlawfully by a U.S. district judge who's thought to be a great conservative, right? A great favorable conservative in the Southland, a man who believes not in constitutional government, but in the concept of judicial supremacy. And that concept, of course, governs the Obergefell, the queer decision, right? The decision that queered American law down to the core, affecting marriage and deconstructing marriage. And Judge Moore refused to let that opinion control entirely, and was illicitly and administratively, apart from justice, was thrown from his seat. So he's running for the Senate, and of course the bigots who run the Southern Poverty Law Center, Richard Cohen, the president, are quoted by the story as calling him as Ayatollah of Alabama. You know, that kind of language is absolutely meaningless. It's just somehow if you stand on a belief in God, that somehow you are an Ayatollah. All I can do is just laugh at that. I mean, that's just very, very humorous. Go to TennesseeStar.com today, the new conservative website. It's called TennesseeStar.com. And make sure you look for my story about Basil Marceau. It's a very important story. I'm the first journalist to ever in the States look at the legal arguments of a political gadfly perennial candidate said to be a court jester, a buffoon, and that is Basil Marceau. Basil Marceau is not any of those things, and his legal arguments, his legal analysis is actually profound. I have learned something about law in interacting with him, trying to find out what he's saying. What are his court cases all about? What is his gripe? What is his grievance? And you, my listener here at Nooga Radio, are counting on me to find out. And what I've done, I'll take some credit for this, is to throw this man off of the high pedestal of court jester and buffoon. He's not that, okay? He's not that. And though he is going to be, he tells me, a candidate for governor in 2018. I don't know that I'm supposed to announce that, but he did tell me that. And he knows I'm a journalist and everything's on the record with me. So that is, I guess, part of the news flow today. Headlines here. The headlines are more, and also a story in Chattanooga.com about Attorney General Herbert Slattery filing a case against a law firm in in Dallas called Witherspoon Law Group PPLC, Personal Limited Liability Corporation. And the attorney is being slapped around for contacting victim survivors of the Woodmore school bus crash in November. Right, that was last year. 6 children dead. And the lawsuit by Herbert Slattery III says that investigators presented themselves as attorneys and pressured families to sign contracts and other documents. Again, this is in Chattanoogan.com, Chattanoogan.com. The investigators also offered to pay funeral costs in exchange for using their service. And this is the kicker. One family was told that the funeral home would refuse to bury their child if the members did not sign a contract with Witherspoon. So that's a lawsuit that's demanding injunctive relief, civil penalties against the Texas attorneys, and restitution for victims. There's a statute that says if there's an accident like that, you in the law firm have to wait a month to pursue this party for rendering aid and assistance by litigation. And Witherspoon was right on the scene. But I note that other law firms filed suit very quickly. There was still dew on the bodies as they were buried. And Hickson, Thornberry, other attorneys locally had contacted families, or were contacted by families. Perhaps that's probably more appropriate to say. The families contacted these local attorneys, and suits have been filed. So go to I have a story coming out about this matter at Nooganomics.com, of which I'm the chief editor. David Tulis, Nooganomics.com. We're brought to you by Boyd's Speedway, and as we say, love your neighbor and buy local, and also buy in that context, Window Depot of Chattanooga, Window Depot of Chattanooga. There's a story that I didn't quite know what to make of yesterday, talking about achievement school districts here in Chattanooga. County schools have five schools that are you might say in need of state aid and rescue. And the story was about Candace McQueen, the state school superintendent, giving an interview with the Chattanooga Times Free Press, writing staff and editors, and talking about the achievement school district statute and what is hoped that might be done as a way of a remedy here in Chattanooga for the 5 worst schools. Well, first of all, let's just ask a question. Why are there 5 worst schools, and why does no one stand in protest outside the school board? How can you have failing schools to begin with? Why is it that when we deal with a government economy, people accept failure? We have 5 schools involving hundreds of children, and there's not a report of a protest outside the school board. Well, I think we've been acclimated by low expectations. Public schools are unreformable. In fact, they are. And so when we hear about 5 failing schools, Candace McQueen coming into town to talk about their state rescue, we just accept these delinquencies, right? These are a kind of state delinquency. And what's proposed is that there be a kind of an empowerment zone. Again, these are all marketing words that clever people who work for the state have devised. And even the word achievement school district is that these are the unachieving schools, right? And so to show that there's interest in reforming these 5 schools, we put them into a separate 501c3 achievement district. That's what's proposed, to offload these toxic schools into it's like offloading bad mortgages into a real estate investment trust, right? Like REIT. CBL is a REIT. REITs were formed in the 60s and were used in the S&L bailout in the 70s to take on this bad paper. This bad real estate investment paper, which sank, the absorption of which sank the S&L industry and kind of wiped out that whole industry. It's the savings and loan industry. So something like that is being proposed for Hamilton County schools, offload these toxic schools. And there's less nominal local control in them because the state nominates I think 60% of the board on the new school district. So these 5 schools will create a separate school district controlled by the state, an LEA, it's called Local Education District. And according to 49-1-614, the statute, the education statute dealing with performance goals and assessment, these districts would be a way that the state would have more direct supervision of the bad boys, right? Bad boys have the principal sitting ever there on the desk in front, right? You're not in a classroom by yourself with a teacher whose back is turned. You've got the principal sitting right there on the desk, looking at you, the bad school, right? The bad boy. Pay attention. We're gonna fix you up. We're gonna give you your learning as the teacher is there on the chalkboard, putting the numbers down, maybe trying to diagram a sentence. But what we have here, though, is a pseudo reform. We have a principle that seems to have a market concept, and that would be in the direction of school choice. But these achievement school districts are not that. Remember, they're in the poorest parts of town. When you have a school cartel, a school monopoly in a poor area, those areas remain poor, right? Poverty and the poverty of opportunity in the state school reflects the poverty outside the school building. And so you don't have choice, you don't have a marketplace, you don't have free enterprise being able to come in through charitable or for-profit interest and say, look, we can help your children in this part of town. And think of the work of Christianity. Christianity, with its grace, its care for the poor, its care for the disadvantaged, is strongly subsidized to do nothing in the case of children who are in these 5 failing schools that Secretary Candace McQueen proposes be in this separate district. There is a story in the Chattanooga Times Free Press that came out yesterday. Candy Rainwater is the reporter. Candy Rainwater writing about this sort of ersatz reform. It's not really a reform. It's just a kind of tinkering, a kind of adjustment. Though Jared Bigham, the coordinator of Chattanooga 2.0, tells Candy Rainwater that he is excited to partner with the district, especially since it's a unique model like no other in the state. And the story says that since it was created, this nonprofit group run by Jared Bigham has been asking the question, what happens if we don't do something? What happens if we don't do something? Well, the free market question, when it comes to a state actor, is really a different question. We don't need more state action. We need less state action, and we need less state money. I think there would be much better prospect for reform in these schools if everyone around them was told, all right, these schools are failing, and we are going to withdraw support. We're going to cut the budget of these schools by 50%. We're going to start this next year by cutting the budget 25%, and the year after that, we're going to cut it another 25%, and the year after that, another 25%, and then in the 4th year, this school will have its last stipend from the state. We're getting out of running these schools. They are a disaster. They cannot meet our standards. Well, of course that won't happen. No, of course that won't happen. That's not going to happen because the state would then be making a concession, which it will not make. The state will have failing schools, will have programs to save failing schools, and yet it will not at the same time make a concession that it is a failing school system and by definition cannot have free market solutions to bring real, genuine, organic improvement. All right. Organic means it comes from within and is not imposed from without. If we have parents in these areas who's in the neighborhoods that feed these schools, if we have parents, moms and dads, of course, many of them are from broken homes. If they're constantly assured, look, we've got it under control, we've got the state coming in to provide new services, we have this new district, don't you worry about anything. As long as we have all these pretended reforms assuring parents that they don't have to do anything, assuring the Christian church in Chattanooga that it doesn't have to do anything, assuring the wealthy, the donors, the charitably minded people that they don't have to do anything because we have it under control. We are bringing reforms to these worst schools. Then these other parties in the private sector will do nothing. They will do nothing. That's what happens when the state intervenes in a market. It consumes the capital that otherwise would be available. It is taking the credit, taking the capital, taking the money, taking away the initiative of the people. And that's why these reforms are not organic. They are administrative. They are top down. and they're strong. I mean, I'll say they're strong, and that's because the state, which uses coercion and force to bring about its ostensibly good purposes, is increasing in this proposed district its force by having more control of the board and nominating the majority of the board of this proposed district. Well, this is David Tulis, and we here at Nooga Radio and Nooganomics.com, and I would say the Tennessee Star as well, the TennesseeStar.com platform, really is about the marketplace, really wants the marketplace to advance. And we need to have local economy solutions. We need to have solutions that come up. These pretended reforms, as described by Kendi Rainwater in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, are not really, they're not going to work. Okay, they're not going to work. They do have some seeming benefits. They do seem to have a sort of decentralized flavor. It's making the case for local performance. It is the best effort that can be made, it would seem. And there is a goal and intention of ending failing schools, of bringing these failing schools to a higher level of performance as measured by standardized tests, of course, which don't measure anything. Standardized tests don't measure anything. They are a fraud. We give, with this reform, an appearance of doing something. And that's what Jared Bigham, that's his word. We have to be doing something to maintain the hegemony, the control of the cartel. Think what would happen if people suddenly couldn't rely on public schools. We would have suddenly to be doing things for ourselves. We would have to be coming up with our own program, our own ideas privately, among families, among people in neighborhood associations, among families in churches. We would have to be doing things ourselves, and that is impossible. So we have to be doing something, as Jared Bigham says. And these are the good things, okay? These are the good things about the proposed reforms that would have the Empower Schools company. It's a company that helps in this sort of effort in the Achievement School District proposed in Hamilton County. But the bad is this. The bad, if I haven't said all these points, just forgive me, but let me mention them in a list. Okay, there's no local control. You have 60% of the school board named by the state faithful to control this board. There's no response to the marketplace. There's no response. There's no invitation that the marketplace help out. We're having a top-down solution, and we need to have local economy solutions. Local economy and the free market, the solution needs to come up from the bottom. It needs to come up from the parents. If we keep telling parents we're going to fix this and not demanding that they do by cutting the budget, cutting back on control, cutting back on funding, we'll never have a real reform. Top-down reforms don't work. Bottom-up reforms do. Bottom-up reforms would, in fact, be privatization, a private effort. We are getting out. We're going our own way. We're going to do our own things. We don't need you. We don't need your free money. We don't need your free advice. Just get lost. Get lost. State of Tennessee, Chattanoogans are better than you think. Hamilton Countyans are better than you think. It said that we are eligible for state intervention. Well, that's the language in the Times-Free Press. These schools in this proposed district are, quote, eligible for state intervention. Sounds like a benefit. Wow, I'm eligible. Oh, I can get it. It's going to be here to help me. This is not a reform. This is not the free market. It is not going to work. This is David Tulis, Nooga Radio, Nooga Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
a customer at SNS 14 years. It's way out of my way, but I'm well treated. I believe what I'm told. Price is reasonable. David Tulis here. Make an SNS appointment today. This week, get $50 off any 30,000-mile service or timing belt repair. And get a free combat knife as a gift. SNS Auto Repair specializes in Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. 6-time winner of Best of the Best Award in the Times Free Press. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in. Take a look. Consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
If I'm the city's most intelligent man, it's because I take 2 shots of Mind Enhancement Complex every day. Nature's Finest keeps me stocked with my mainstay, Formula 4. That's where I start. Formula 4. Industrial farming, soil depletion, mineral empty food. I just say